Welcome to our first Workshop Wednesday. We'll be holding this workshop every third Wednesday of the month, covering different topics and featuring different key speakers. Today, we're going to cover scholarships and financial aid. Why are you here? Well, you're here because you want your student choosing the right school for the right reasons and at the right price. That's what we do. The information's general in nature, seeing that everyone's personal financial situation is complex and very different. Due to this, we'll offer a free initial evaluation to those who attend tonight, where we will take 60 minutes of one-on-one time to review your specific and individual situation. So the meeting is going to be approximately 60 minutes. We have a lot of experience with families, and we found that while you most likely will benefit greatly from our services, it's just impossible for us to work with everyone. We're extraordinarily selective in what we do, so we only take members that we know we can help and conversely want our help. Let me give you an idea of what to expect. During the initial evaluation, we're going to discuss your student, where you currently are in the process, what are your goals, objectives, and obstacles are. Naturally, you'll have questions for us, such as how can we help save you money for college? Is there anything we can do with your student to get them better prepared? And how do we help families figure out the financial aid formula? Obviously, we're going to have some questions for you, like how prepared is your son or daughter for the admissions process? How prepared are you for paying for college? And what impact does college have on your plans for retirement? When we get to the end of the conversation, there are three possible outcomes. You're going to consider what we have to offer. You're going to say to yourself, you know what? This doesn't seem like a good fit for me. In your mind, you're going to know that pretty quickly. All I'm asking is that from you is if you feel that this isn't a good fit for you, that you would be kind enough to tell us, this isn't really going to work out for us. Conversely, if we're looking at your situation and we don't think we are a good fit for you, we will let you know that we don't see any way to provide value for your family. That way, there are no games between us and we're shooting straight with each other. Does that sound fair? On the other hand, if we see that we can provide value to your family, we will say, yes, you're a good fit for us. And if you like what we discuss and sounds like a good fit for your family, then the pieces seem to work and an investment makes sense. Our goal is to help you achieve a great outcome for your student and for your finances. So our agenda today is to talk about the college cost conversation you need to have with your student, financial aid, and scholarships. Let's talk first about the college cost conversation. Before you can complete financial aid applications and forms, you have a few steps to accomplish first. Step number one is you have to determine how much you should expect in need-based aid, whether it's grants or loans or scholarships, by determining your EFC. EFC stands for Expected Family Contribution, and how much you're ready, willing, and able to pay, and what your student should be responsible for if he or she wants to go to a college out of your price range. So first, you must calculate your EFC, your expected family contribution. Because if you don't know your EFC, you won't know what the minimum you'll be expected to pay for college. And your EFC will most likely be more than you anticipate paying for college. So then there's another college cost formula. Once you determine your EFC, you need to discuss with your student how much you're actually willing or able to pay. And then whatever is left over is his or her responsibility. Now, there's several ways to pay. How are you going to get the money to pay for college? There are ways to pay for college from your finances, whether it be your income, your assets, home equity, loans, or retirement savings. And I mentioned retirement savings because even though we don't recommend it, you can legally take money from your retirement to pay for college. And of course, if you qualify for need, then you'll also may receive federal Pell Grants, state grants, and grants from institutions. Most schools also expect your student to contribute financially to the financial aid formula. So you should look at your student's income and assets, whether it be UTMAs or UGMAs, student loans, and possible scholarships. Your college cost conversation should cover the following points, and you'll want to write these down. First of all, here's how much your intended school's projected costs are. Here's how much mom and dad are willing to or able to contribute. Here's what you'll have to borrow or make up for in income, scholarships, grants, whatever, in order to afford that school. Here's what that translates into payments at the end of school. And who will be responsible for that payment? Is it a Parent Plus loan or private loan or student loans? So obviously you want to see what the math looks like. So this is exactly how it works. Let's pretend your EFC is $50,000, but you've only budgeted $20,000 per year for your student. That leaves $30,000. So in order for your student to make the school fit into your budget, he or she should plan to take out student loans, earn a certain amount of money during the summer or work study during the year, and qualify for significant merit aid. So it's really important you have that conversation with your students. Number two, let's talk about financial aid. Now, financial aid itself consists of scholarships, grants, work studies, and loans. We need to make sure that once you include need-based aid outside scholarships and the school's history for covering your need, that you can pay the remaining out-of-pocket expenses. Financial aid can come from several different avenues. Now, unless you're in the military, veterans benefits are not available to you. You may want to check with your employer to see if there's any education benefits for dependents. Other than those two areas, all the other areas are available to all students. That's your federal grants, Pell Grants, federal loans. You can see that's a huge chunk. College resources or institutional money, state programs, private sources, or private scholarships. Now, there are two types of aid. Merit aid, and this comes from the admissions department, and you're typically notified at the same time as their decision. It can be in the form of an academic scholarships based on your GPA, transcripts, test scores. It could be athletic scholarships based on your specific talent or ability in a specific sport, or it can be an achievement scholarship based on anything from your community service, leadership roles, earning an IB or ACE diploma. It's free money no matter how you look at it, and you don't have to give it back. Need-based aid consists of grants, which is also free, to low interest, zero interest loans to work study. Whatever fancy names are used, it's either free money, it's a loan, or it's something you have to work off. Federal financial aid consists of some of these. Federal financial aid is going to consist of grants, work study, and loans, but the whole financial aid package is also going to include scholarships. So, as I said, three types of federal aid. Grants, which do not have to be paid back, work study, and loans. Grants and work study are need-based. Every student is entitled to student loans. Let's look at how they determine your need. So with work study, it's another way to earn money that can be used for your college expenses. Make sure that when you choose from the available job openings that you're choosing something that is related either to your course of study or to that college or department. Keep in mind, if you can still get on-campus employment, even if you don't qualify for work study. But some of the jobs you want to look at are also offered at businesses and corporations off campus, which is a great way to get your foot in the door. But keep in mind, just a word of caution about this, paid internships and assistantships and fellowships and summer employment. The FAFSA allows $6,420 in income allocation for students. What that means is if you earn more than $6,420 within a year, the FAFSA will apply 50%, that's 50% of the amount over that towards your portion, the student portion of the EFC. So if your student earns $9,000, 2,580 is over the income allocation. So about 1,290 will be added to your expected contribution each semester. And if your family qualifies for federal need-based aid, you'll want to be careful about how much you earn to determine how it will affect your financial aid. And we're also seeing loans. Student loans, unlike grants and work study, are borrowed money that must be repaid with interest, just like car loans and home mortgages. You cannot have these loans canceled because you're having financial difficulties. Loans are legal obligations. So before you take out a student loan, think about the amount you'll have to repay over the years. There's 4 different kinds of loans. Federal Perkin loans are the best. These loans have the lowest interest rates, and the interest doesn't start accruing until 4 months after you stop attending school. Direct subsidized loans are for students who demonstrate financial need, and the interest on the loan is not charged while you're in school. Direct unsubsidized loans start accruing interest immediately. And we advise that you pay the interest either monthly, quarterly, or annually to keep it from compounding. And direct plus loans are for parents. Plus stands for parent loan for undergraduate studies. We try to avoid loans whenever possible, and your last option, which isn't listed here, is taking out a private loan. So some of the rates, to receive a Parent Plus loan, you must be the biological or adoptive parent, and you have to not have adverse credit history. And please note that grandparents, unless they are the legal guardians, are not eligible to receive Parent Plus loans, even if they have the primary responsibility of raising the student. And you want to make sure that you request a deferment so that you will not have to make payments while your child is enrolled at least half time and for an additional 6 months after your child graduates or leaves school or drops below half-time enrollment. If the school your child is attending requires you to submit your request for the Parent Plus loan, you'll have the option of requesting a deferment again, and you can always make sure that that deferment is at least 6 months after. Again, you're going to still be accruing interest on your loan, so you'll want to choose to pay the accrued interest so that it doesn't become capitalized, meaning added to the loan principal balance. Here are the several steps of financial aid, and it all begins with the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Every school will look at the FAFSA to determine your expected family contribution, or EFC. There are also about 250 schools of the top universities that also want you to submit the CSS profile to determine your eligibility for institutional grants. Some schools have their own financial aid application, some instead of the CSS profile, and some in addition to the CSS profile. And you may be asked to submit several other forms, and we're going to go over all these. So the most important thing, let's talk about timing. Each school determines their deadlines. So it's important that you know the deadline and submit the applications well in advance. We recommend getting those filled out by the 3rd week of October. Both the FAFSA and the CSS profile are available October 1st. So let's start by looking at the CSS profile. Now, they're going to look a little closer at the details of your family's situation. This form can be a bit overwhelming. The FAFSA is 108 questions. Well, this one is 320 questions, plus over 150 institution-specific supplemental questions. We recommend that you complete the CSS profile first because once you have submitted it, you will get a worksheet with the answers for the FAFSA. And you've got to pay a fee. Isn't that nice? You've got to actually pay them for the privilege to apply for financial aid. The fee is there's a registration fee of $9, and then it's $16 additional for each and every college. So that can add up. If your student is applying to 10 schools and they are all use the CSS profile, then you are looking right there at 10 times 16 is $160 plus the $9 registration fee is $169. Okay, first of all, the CSS profile wants information on all parents. So let's pretend the worst possible case scenario that you're a divorced and both you and your ex-partner have remarried. So there's you and your new spouse, or let's say your son's stepmother, and then there's your ex-partner and her new spouse, your son's mother and stepfather. You need to list all four of you. The next question is to list the parents with whom the student lives. And even though your retirement funds are not included in the financial aid formula, the CSS profile still wants you to report them. Unlike the FAFSA that links to the IRS to transfer your data, you have to enter it manually into the CSS profile. This is one of the places where you can make a mistake. So make sure that you have the correct lines. And the most important part is for the amount of tax that you're required to pay. Make sure that you don't enter the tax that make sure that you enter the tax that you are paying or required to pay, not the amount of tax that was deducted for your payroll. For instance, if you get a refund, that means, let's say your tax bill is actually $2,000, but the company you work for, your employer, during the course of a year took out $3,000 and you get a $1,000 refund. You do not want to report the $3,000, you want to report the $2,000. Here's another less known fact. Any money contributed to your retirement plans, IRAs and 401ks, for example, are added back into the income because, silly colleges, they think that money should be used for college for your student. You will also need to report your assets. Investment in addition to your home. Well, let's start with investments. Investments include real estate, rental property, trust funds, money market funds, mutual funds, certificates of deposit, stocks, stock options, bonds, other securities, installment and land sale contracts. Investments also include qualified educational benefits and educational savings plans. For example, Coverdell savings accounts, 529 college savings plans, and 529 prepaid tuition plans. UGMA and UTMAs are not counted in your assets. Those are actually reported as student investments, and you must report them under the student section. They're also going to ask you, how much is your house worth? Just a tip. The formula that's used by the schools is called the Federal Housing Index Multiplier, or the Housing Index Multiplier. It assesses home value on a national level. You plug in the year you bought your house, how much you paid for it, and it's going to give you a number. A lot of times the number is lower than your appraised value. That's the number that you want to report to the colleges and universities. That number, again, is the Federal Housing Index Multiplier. You do have the opportunity to report medical and dental expenses, student loan repayment, and alimony that you pay. Other than that, they do not take into account any of your debt. Let's talk about key question on the form that can cause families a little bit of problem. One of them is how much you expect to receive from the following sources to pay for educational expenses, and they have the student's parent. Now, let's say they're asking your student basically, what do you think your parents can afford for college? Here's where it can be problematic. If your kid is looking at a school like Yale or Princeton or USC or Stanford, and they see this question, they may go, oh my gosh, I don't know what to put. I really want to go there. My family can maybe afford $50,000 a year. Well, you probably can't afford $50,000 a year, or at least you don't want to pay $50,000 a year. But even if you did, you're probably not the number you want to put. That number should be something close to your expected family contribution. If you put a number higher than your expected family contribution, that will be your new expected family contribution. What I mean by that is if your expected family contribution is $1,000 and your student puts in here $5,000, your new expected family contribution is now $5,000. Another question is very closely attached to this question I just gave you is how about your relatives or others than the student's parents or any other sources? Now, I know grandma has good intentions, maybe uncles and aunties have good intentions, but the answer to this question probably should be nothing. Let's pretend that you do have a relative that intends on helping pay for college. You need to take a couple of things into consideration. First of all, the money is gifted to your student, or if your student's the beneficiary, then it is considered student income, which the EFC assesses at 20 to 25%. So $10,000 will add another $2,000 to $2,500 a year to your EFC. Remember, it's expected family contribution. Now, if your relative sends the money to the school will thank them emphatically, turn to you, and ask for your portion to pay. But if your relative gives the money to you and you deposit it into one of your accounts and then you write the check, now the money is being used to cover your portion of the costs. We joke about an alternative method. The brown paper bag, small denominations, and non-sequential numbers. Another option, if student loans are being added as part of the financial aid package, you can always have your grandparents or relatives pay off the student loans. And while the FAFSA doesn't allow you to provide an explanation about your special circumstances, the CSS profile does. As you can see, they give you different things that apply, and you can check off as many boxes as you want, and it gives you, down below, it allows you to write your explanation. That being said, a very important fact to know is that once you actually submit the CSS profile, you cannot make any corrections. So what does that mean? That means if you submitted it and you need to make a correction, you actually have to now contact each and every school, explain the correction that you need to make, and follow their instructions they give you for providing them with the new information or correct information. Now, 2 CSS profiles. Really? Yes. Well, maybe. If you are divorced, many schools will want both the custodial and non-custodial parent to complete a CSS profile. So the non-custodial CSS profile is for families with divorced or separated parents. It's a separate application completed by the non-custodial parents and their spouse. It's only required by certain schools, so you want to check with the school's financial aid office to see if they require it. And it requests the same information as collected from the custodial parent. Now, if you have documentation that you are not in contact with your ex-partner, you can complete the CSS profile non-custodial waiver application. Make sure you check with the school, each and every school, to see if they have their own form or if they want the CSS profiles for. So that wraps up the CSS profile. Now let's talk about the federal form, the FAFSA. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or as I like to call it, the Federal Application for Stealing Assets. Everyone needs to fill it out, and it needs to be filled out accurately and, more importantly, on time. Like I said earlier, if you're thinking that you might have a good quality student that might be eligible for merit at a college or university, we still suggest that you fill this out. Many schools will not award merit aid if you don't complete financial aid forms. They will save that merit aid to entice students that do fill out financial aid forms and indicate that financial aid is a factor in the decision of which school to attend. So as you can see, you need to fill them out, and you need to fill them out correctly. Yes, it is done electronically. Yes, you can make corrections after you've submitted it, but there is you do want to make sure that you fill it out right the first time, because filling it out later in the process or missing a key deadline or filling out the wrong information could literally have significant impact on your eligibility for financial aid. So even if you were eligible, if it's filled out incorrectly or it's marked as being late, you're now not eligible for institutional need-based financial aid. I know you talk to a guy and the guy was your neighbor. Your neighbor says, don't even bother. It's such a pain. We didn't get anything. One of the reasons that they may not have gotten anything is because they made mistakes. You see here, there's a number statistically. Over 30,000 or 30%. It's actually a lot more than 30,000. Over 30% are sent with errors or inconsistencies. That's a lot of people making mistakes that's jeopardizing their opportunity to get need-based financial aid. So what does the FAFSA consist of? There's 108 questions on the FAFSA. We recommend completing it the second or third week in October. Why? Every year, there are new staff processing your FAFSA, and that will be making mistakes here and there for the first couple weeks. I want them to make the mistakes on somebody else's FAFSA. And I want to make sure that not only do they not make mistakes, that I don't make mistakes. Because if it is done incorrectly, or even if they make mistakes, it takes 4 to 6 weeks processing time to make those corrections. Yikes. So before you can even start the FAFSA, both your student and one parent need to create an FSA ID. That stands for Federal Student Aid. In addition to the FAFSA, it allows your student to apply for student loans and for you to apply to Parent Plus loans if that's necessary. So when you go to the FSAID.gov, you'll see where you can create an FSA ID by creating a username and a password, and that's what you're going to be using on everything. I always recommend, if you can, to have your students create the same one they use on College Board, so they're only remembering one password and one username. And again, you want to make sure when you do this that you get them accurate. You want to make sure that you get them on time. Now, remember the divorced couple in our previous example. I recently had a parent ask for help. He was divorced and he had remarried. But he was in for a big surprise when he found out that he had to report both his financial information and his new wife's financial information. And the Department of Education is looking for one family unit. It hadn't occurred to him to even calculate his expected family contribution for both him and his new wife, and separately for his ex-partner, both sides. Whatever one makes most sense for the student in terms of the lower expected family contribution, that's probably where you're going to start. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. There are other mitigating circumstances that might determine which direction you want to go, but it's definitely a place to start. So here are some of the important questions. First of all, young men, in order to receive federal aid, your male students must register for selective services. Even though in my lifetime I haven't seen anyone call to the draft, it still could be possible. That question is still on the FAFSA. You need to answer yes. And also, you want to make sure down here where it says, are you interested in being considered for work study? Yes, you always want to answer yes to that question. And it's important that you use the IRS data retrieval tool that they're talking about right here, that when you're reporting your tax information. What happens is the IRS will take the information off of your tax return that they have entered electronically into their system, and they will link it to the FAFSA so you don't have to answer it. And we can also, that way, we also can make sure that the answers are correct and the information is correct. Now, just like the CSS profile, you need to report any payment to retirement savings. Again, this is going to be added back into your UEFC. And you're reporting the same investments here as you did on the CSS profile. However, you do not report your home equity on your primary residence. And you do not report your business worth unless you have over 100 employees. So does anyone here have over 100 employees? If you do, you need to come see us. And once you submit your FAFSA, you're going to get an email that it has been submitted successfully. And it takes 1 to 3 days, and then you will receive an email that says it has been processed successfully. Once it's been processed successfully, you need to log back into the FAFSA, come down here to where it says view or print your student aid report. That's called the SAR. And you need to view it and print it or download it. Once you do, here's some important information on it. Your EFC will be there, your DRN number or data recovery number. That is great in the event that you sent the FAFSA to ABC University, but ABC University can't find it. You give them the DRN and they'll be able to log in and find it. This here, you'll notice, says your FAFSA has been selected for a review process called verification. And verification is randomly chosen lottery, where if you get chosen, the school has the authority to request copies of, certain financial documents like tax documents, W-2s from you and your parent, from your student and you. Also, if you'll notice here, this is where it verifies the selective service registration. And down here at the bottom, depending on your EFC, if you are eligible to receive a federal Pell Grant, this will tell you what you can anticipate for your federal Pell Grant to be. Now, the verification is a process used to confirm that the information provided on your student's FAFSA is correct. Only a portion of students are selected for the verification process, and it is random again. But students may also be institutionally selected for verification on a case-by-case basis if your CSS profile and FAFSA have conflicting information, or you submit documentation that's not required. That's a big no-no. Or you request special consideration, or you're requesting an appeal from a prior year, meaning your freshman year a school gave you $56,000, your sophomore year they give you $40,000, and you want to appeal it to get the $56,000. You also need to check with each and every college to see if they have their own institutional financial aid application. To name a few, Northwestern University, University of Southern California, Georgia Tech, Princeton, those are just to name a few that have their own. And USC, for an example, is in addition to the FAFSA and the profile. So filling out an application of 108 questions and an additional one for 320 questions apparently is not enough. You have to complete another one. I know, it's ridiculous. Here are some of the other forms. The non-filer tax statement, we're going to go over in a minute. Household member listing, sibling education verification forms. What that means is if you have 2 students going to college, some schools will request a form from the school of the sibling to confirm that they are going to college. The family budget worksheet, asset worksheet, income verification form. If the money you're spending doesn't add up to what your income is, they may want to see how that all works out. So the non-tax filer is a form if you did not file a tax return, or if your student did not file a tax return. And you will need to get a verification of non-filing letter from the IRS. Now they're going to tell you to go to the IRS and get the transcript online, which if it's you, that's fine if you've already filed a tax return, because here's what they're going to have. They're going to be able to give you a tax return transcript if you previously filed a tax return and you have some sort of credit in your name, meaning a mortgage or an auto loan or your phone bill or credit cards. You have to be able to verify that. Obviously not something your student can, so your student's going to have to get it by mail. And write this down. That form is 4506-T. Make sure you get the one that is -T. That's for transcript. Another form you have to fill out is the Florida Financial Aid application. This form will qualify you for the ABLE grant, Bright Futures, the EASE grant, which is a grant if your student is going to a private university in Florida. First generation matching grant if your student is the first one in your family to go to college. Florida Student Assistant Grant is another need-based for students with great financial need. And we also have iDocs. iDocs is the Institutional Document Service Center. So iDoc is a service that collects financial documents from the family and distributes them to institutions on behalf of the student. If you are required to submit family documents through iDoc, you will receive an email from the College Board with both the link to the service and instructions for logging in. Only students whose institutions require them to use iDoc to submit financial documents can log into the iDoc site. But once you log in, you upload required documents. College Board processes these documents usually within 2 to 4 days and submits them to the institutions that use the service. It is important to know not all schools use iDoc, that use the CSS profile, use iDocs. And here's the first 3 bits of information you need. Either your College Board FinAid ID, which is on your CSS profile, or you can put in your social security number or social insurance number, that's if you're from Canada, and your date of birth. Out of those 3, it's 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Then you have to check that you've read and agree to the terms and conditions and click sign in. Here's some of the things you may need to provide to the financial aid schools. For the custodial parent, we've got the tax return, the W-2 form, the 1099 forms. This, if you own a business, the business farm supplement. And for the student, the same thing, the tax return, the W-2 forms, the 1099s, plus the verification statement. You will notice here on each one of them, if you did not do not expect to submit a federal tax return, you click there and there's a non-filer statement you can fill out. And with the W-2 and 1099s, if you do not receive those, there's a online statement you can fill out and submit stating that you did not receive those. And that's not all. Look at all these other forms. As I said, the business farm supplement, non-tax file, we've gone over. Verification statements, we've gone over. And certain schools will have certain forms that you have to fill out. In addition to this, as I said, we have the business farm supplement. This form is essentially a profit and loss statement. So it's really important that you get help from your CPA or whoever did your business taxes to help you fill that out. And then, of course, you have to upload documents. Your tax returns and all those forms have to be uploaded. Once you upload them, then you're going to see them listed under here as uploaded. Once they've been processed, you're going to see it here as processed. the different tax forms they may ask for in addition to your 1040, your personal tax return. They may ask for a partnership income return or a 1120S or an 1120 corporate return. Okay, now finally, that was financial aid. Let's talk about scholarships. So there are a bunch of different kinds of scholarships or merit aid. It comes from the admissions office and it's free money based on just how awesome your student is. And it comes in the form of scholarships. So schools have scholarships from 4 different sources: merit scholarships, achievement or talent scholarships, whether it be athletic or artistic, performance, endowment scholarships, and departmental scholarships. We're going to go over these individually. So first, about your scholarships, some of the questions that you have to ask. What's the criteria for the scholarships? What scholarships do they offer? Merit, endowment, departmental? Do they offer community service scholarships? Here's the biggie. What are the deadlines? That is critical because some schools have an earlier deadline for their scholarships than they do for the actual admissions application, such as Boston University or USC. And is there a separate application? There is for Boston University. There is also for Tulane or Vanderbilt University. So with Tulane, if you want to apply for one of their scholarships, you have to, first of all, you have to apply early action. If you do not apply early action by November 15th, you will not be eligible for merit scholarships. And if you do not submit the scholarship application, you are going to miss a lot of the big scholarships, and that has to be done by December 15th. So these are important things you need to be checking on your each school's website. You also want to look for endowment scholarships. These are scholarships that are paid by an outside source, many times an alumni or a corporation or a trust fund, something like that. And they are paid to a student attending that particular school. So the good part is that there are generally several endowment scholarships, but not that many applicants. So your choices are favorable as long as you meet the criteria, provide them with what they want, and apply early. The bad part, usually most endowment scholarships have their own individual application. And as you can see from the University of Florida, that has 135 available. Yes, 135. Now, don't be alarmed. You're not going to be qualifying for 135. You will fill, they have a little filter or sorting, so you put in a few bits of criteria and it tells you what scholarships you qualify for. So phew. Another place to find scholarships is within specific school of study or department. For example, University of Miami's School of Communication, they have scholarships specifically for students in that department. Another example is University of Central Florida, UCF, like their engineering department. It's called the Excel program. That's EXCEL. That's just for engineering, and it's another scholarship. And of course, as I mentioned, endowments. Not every school has endowments. And a lot of the schools that have good endowments, a lot of your public universities, well, they use that for research or they use it for athletics to attract some of the top high school athletes. But just to give you an idea of schools with large endowments, this is Harvard. Harvard has $31.7 billion in endowments each and every year. That is more than all of the other Ivy League schools, all other 7 of them put together. Okay, and as I mentioned, you want to fill out the Florida financial aid application. Even though they call it the financial aid application, it doesn't ask any financial aid questions because they'll get that information from your FAFSA. But you do need to fill this out to qualify for these all different scholarships and grants. The Benequisto, that's pronounced Benequisto Scholarship Program, that is for students that are National Merit Scholars, and it is a full ride. And when I say full ride, I mean the cost of attendance. And what I mean by that is not just tuition, but tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies. Bright Futures you've heard about. The ease, effective access to student education, that is awarded to help defray the cost of a Florida private school education. Typically, it's a few $1,000s. And first generation matching grant we've talked about already. I wanted to point out the new numbers for Bright Futures for the SAT scores because that has changed. So for the academic scholars now, your student has to get at least a 1330 on the SAT to qualify for the academic scholars, which is 100% tuition and fees at a Florida State University. And for the medallion scholarship, they need a 1210, which will get them 75%. It's really important. You also want to register with FastWeb. FastWeb is a scholarship search program, and I love it. And you can click sign up because don't worry, it's free. Once you fill out all your profile, it's going to show you how many scholarships meet your profile, what the potential value is, so that you can start applying. There's another service called Raise Me. That's Raise Me. You can automatically earn scholarships from colleges each time you achieve any of the following goals in school, like get an A in a course and get $100 to $1,000, get a B in a course, $500 to $600, participate in a school club or sport, $25 to $250, and so on and so on. Raise Me works with about 313 colleges and summer programs. So let's just look at it a little bit closer. As you can see, we've got all sorts of academic ones, like take an AP or IB course, take a dual enrollment course. You've got also your extracurricular activities or sports, or a Gold Award. Gold Award, FYI, that's with Girl Scouts. Eagle Scouts, you guessed it, with the Boy Scouts. And taking the PSAT, attending a college fair. Now that only works if you are attending a college fair and you talk to the college that is going to offer the scholarship. Referring a friend, attending a summer program, at an art or media project, completing the FAFSA. So you could earn a few dollars anywhere for little stuff. There is also another resource, and this is called Scholar Snaps. It is under the Financial Aid Resources tab in the Common application. You've heard of it called the Common App. Once you have actually completed the Common App and submitted it to at least one school, you will be able to come in here and fill this out.
You want to go to college, but it's expensive. You need scholarship money, but you know it will take a lot of time to fill out all of those applications. In fact, you stayed up all night filling out one scholarship application. You wonder if every scholarship application will take you this long, and if so, where will you find the time to complete them all? It's like having extra homework every night. Instead of spending all that time retyping your basic information, name, address, email, birthday, and so on, what if you could enter that information once and then store it in one place in the cloud? And even better, what if you could reuse that content by snapping your basic information directly into other scholarship and college applications with one simple click? The ScholarSnap solution is the key to reusing your application data so you have more time to focus on the unique parts of the application, such as essays. After all, your basic information isn't what sets you apart from the competition. And you want those reviewing your application to get to know the real you, right? Not only does the ScholarSnap solution save all your profile, transcript, financial, and family background information, it also saves your original written content, from application essays to interview questions. Fill out common questions once and quickly snap your data into any application that works with ScholarSnap. It will automatically fill your content into their application, but only after you give permission. The ScholarSnap solution just made applying for scholarships faster and easier. Apply for more scholarships and increase your chances to win more money in a snap. Get started now at scholarsnap.org.
That is how easy that works. So I don't see a reason not to do this. You should absolutely have your students signing up and doing Scholar Snap as soon as they submit the first Common App application. And last but not least, with scholarships, there's also some really good local scholarships. George Snow Foundation, and you should write these down. So you have the George Snow Foundation, J.M. Rubin Foundation, Pathfinder Scholarship. Your student needs to talk to your guidance counselor about that, or your principal. Broward Education Foundation and Community Foundation of the Palm Beaches. A lot of these application dates start and open up October 1st. So you definitely want to look into that. Okay, well, that's our information on scholarships and financial aid. I know it probably seems a bit overwhelming, but I got a few things for your to-do list. First thing you need to do is calculate your EFC. Then you want to determine what you're able, ready, and willing to pay. Now, I put them in this order for a reason. The first thing to consider is your ability to pay. Secondly, are the funds to be used for college going to be there when you need them? Meaning, do they have guaranteed growth and will they be liquid? And third, just because you're able to pay $20,000 to $80,000 per year, it doesn't mean that you're willing to pay that. So once you figured that out, the next step is to make sure that you take the time to have the college cost conversation with your student. Transparency regarding school costs will prevent broken banks and broken dreams. Being realistic will help. And finally, we recommend seeking professional assistance or advice if this looks a little bit overwhelming to you. So, are you interested? Are you thinking you would like us to possibly do your financial aid forms and help you out? Let me tell you what we do for you and what that means. So first, we're going to meet with you to calculate your EFC. We will also perform a cash flow analysis to determine if there's any way to lower your budget. We'll also compare your EFC to the cost of attendance at your list of interested schools so you can learn what to expect in need-based assistance, if any, and of course explore what your out-of-pocket costs are going to be. And if there is a way to lower your EFC, we will share that with you. And you can decide how much you can afford towards the cost of college. And after all that, we will complete all financial aid forms accurately, including showing you how to compare your financial aid awards when you finally get them sometime between March and April. So are you interested in coming in to schedule your initial evaluation? I hope so. I'd love to see you. Here, let's go over a few of the rules. First, if you are married, we respectfully insist that both parents must attend the meeting. Please do not ask our staff to make an exception because they will tell you no. Your meeting must be during our office hours. Our office hours are Monday through Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, we're aware that your time is valuable and we respect that. Our time is valuable too, and we would like it to be respected as well. You must schedule your appointment by Friday, September 25th. Now, you can schedule it for a few weeks after that, but you need to call us and have the appointment on the calendar by Friday, September 25th. We have a couple of workshops right after that, and so we have to make sure that we give them the opportunity to book appointments and initial evaluations too. But this is going to allot you a little over 1 week to schedule your meeting and a little over 4 weeks to meet with us. And if it's important to you, we'll make it important to us, and our staff will do everything possible to accommodate you. So if you are looking to call us, you can call the office between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. at 833, yeah, it's toll free, 833-473-3631. That's right, that's green 833 green 1. You can also go to our website by clicking and go to book online. If you do that, please call us in advance so we can give you a gift certificate so that the initial evaluation is free. Well, I hope you got a lot of information out of this. It's our genuine pleasure to share this time with you. The key to all of this is you got some information and now you're probably a little dangerous. The last thing you want to do is take the time that you spent here and do absolutely nothing. Either work at this on your own or come in and chat with us and see if there's a way we might be able to assist you. Either way, do something. So thank you for attending our workshop. Have a great week, and we hope to speak with you soon.